slaver, though neither name nor title do I object. Man gives names to the things he owns, and if a man can't claim ownership, he gives names to that he does not understand. So they call me a slaver. Upon my travels, my occupation has taught me everything that I need to know about man. He is not an entity you can define. He is the coagulation of all nature. He is singular and multiple. To speak of man is to speak of stars that blaze across galaxies and collapse into themselves. I speak of fractals and binary. I speak of the endless web of contradiction. Man is not as you have been told. He's an appendage on the tailbone of creation, a mutation of the cosmos. And in order for him to look at himself in the mirror and not see my face lurking over his shoulder, he stands proudly and gives himself a name, man. And he names his works good, and his decisions named virtue. And all the names of the natural world are a code to disguise that which man does not understand. It is the universe he sees in the mirror. When the light of a dying star bounces to the speculum, and an ancient knowledge is conjured of his right to a dominion, an empire at his fingertips that he is too fearful to close into a fist. And an urge rises of man's potentiality, boundlessly unfulfilled, and he pushes it down through his gullet to the void, where he prays it to be sucked into a non-existence. But his essence itself falls deeper into the darkness, and he doesn't know where it will lead, and he drifts through rings and globules, watching himself fade from view. And even in his own death, he grasps something. There's a twitch in the vagus nerve that remembers a story of an ancient religion and how he was there, stood on the podium, preaching. And as the rain drowned the masses, he falls into the darkness once more, pushing instinct into the gorge of a wanting vermin. For him, there is no reason, and upon discovering his truth, you find the universe is an on-off switch, with man's trembling finger hovering over the trigger. They call me a slaver, though if I were to explain my profession, you couldn't understand. Man sees my works and detests me, telling himself that I do not belong in his realm. And the sentiment is shared. What lives inside these frames has never been mankind. No, this is some new kind of man. He tells me himself with his own organ. Man greets me with geniality and rattles like some teacup in the hand of a grandmother. And the towering monster he is, he arises the stunted stature, the drooling lip, the empty mind. Here was once a beautiful child, a vessel of pure potential. I speak not as an exaggerator. Man does not recognize his brethren as equal. He sees himself an apex, and all that he encounters devices whose purpose he has not decided yet. And now man hates his counterpart. The only thing he detests more is himself. That he cannot be all he desires. That he cannot hold to his convictions before his veneer takes over. It requires dedication to hate oneself. I cast the clothes from man's back, forcing him to crawl through the dirt, and I command him to grin. Stumbling, he looks upward with a canine stare of affirmation, and the smile reveals itself, ancient symbol of feigned hope. Man accommodates himself for any slaver, for he hopes to be one himself one day. Yet he possesses not the courage to put the grand structure into place. I am the manifestation of man's intent in a single crystalline source. What is man if he is not violent? Violence awaits man's embrace, a gentle touch on the scale of the universe to bring everything into balance. And just as man waits to greet violence, I await him around the bend, hammer in hand. For if man cannot understand my doings, he gives me a false name. He fears my capacity, and to that tepid creature I name him Man. And I burn his village, and I erase his history, and I stuff his culture into a makeshift box to carry around. And on his death rattle, he will look up to his tyrant and smile once more. They say I am the agent of destruction, yet man is responsible for his infinite suicides. And while he festers in his own reasoning, I walk up to the catatonic carrier and rip out its heart as a keepsake. You think man outgrows his nightmares? You'd be surprised. They call me a slaver, though I am but a facilitator of the natural order. And if you are to understand the natural order, then you must understand me. For I too am of nature. Man is blessed with the virtue of pleasure. It is his one true tactility. Man is but a walking synapse to be triggered at will. And should he choose a life of low frequency pleasure, then I take ownership, because nature is a cargo and a currency. And pleasure is the threshold that man must break beyond if he is to seek new domains. God chose to give you a body, a machine of meat and ventricles to be stimulated. Pleasure is my craft, and to break these new boundaries, one has to become an inventor of vanguard pleasure. Man has seen my inventions throughout history, but of my execution there is no parallel. I create that which cannot be put into words. I've seen skin peeled back by an absinthe wind. I can show man things he wouldn't believe. I take him to a world that he didn't know existed. And when he realizes where he is, I will look in man's eyes, and now the projection of the universe has disappeared, and that translucent reflection comes not of a mirror, but of a shield, refusing to let in all that it knows. But stare long enough, and you will see the scene settle into man's mind as reality. An ultimate synthesis of truth, that man has accepted violence and seeks out the pleasures it conceals, though he has lost all means to do so, and he will be cursed throughout his generations, desperate to commit violence and not know why. And nature and the thing of evil rejoices. They call me a our slaver, the one with man wherever he goes. You watch Main on the road. He whispers past creatures of the fall, the effigy slumped over the median, where shackles of a civilization they long thought dead. They wait on bended knee, with hope outspread, prepared for the archangels to descend and peel back the skin of the wastes, so rings of clarions may sing for their healer. And the skyline behind lies in a mustard-coloured mist. All men walk along the road. I'm simply the navigator to his rightful place. And I arrive in his habitat when the vibrating sense of urgency has risen through the sands of generations. There's nitroglycerin in the tabernacle. The beggar crushes the needle on the first hole he can find, and the condition of man seeps like a chlorine gas through your cavities as he learns to detest all around him. Man seeks to hide his secrets from me, then asks how I know all of them, and I tell him I don't. Man was merely awaiting my arrival as I made my way down the road. And I will walk with Man wherever he goes. When rain falls from a foreign sky and it stings his poles, he will think of me and how he chose to carry my wares. For my hands are free, and I examine my fingernails and I see a universe underneath them, a microcosm of everything from the perspective of God. Though God has a name, and the names that you give me only exist because I permit them. And so I walk along the silent part of the road. And man sees every transgression against humanity he commits, bearing the mark of my presence. Yet as man looks around, he cannot find me. I have been everywhere, and I will go everywhere. And as the generations pass, civility between the slave and master arises, and they become equal, and the slaver is no more. And with this, equality and the violence returns, and man's subconscious screams that he should be the owner. And so man awaits my return, to enslave him once more. And once I arrive, he begs me to leave. And the road fades away over the sands, and man looks, hoping that over the skyline there rests some end. And he believes it, and continues along the road once more, smiling. And when he closes his eyes to sleep for the final time, he will see me standing at the corner of his bed, while 1,000 crucified children are outside his front door.